These power lines coming into my house hang down awfully low around the side yard here. Maybe because this pole is leaning so badly. There's no way they can guy it because of the highway. So between that house and this house, it's pulling the pole over. Had a little issue here at the back of the house where the gutter drain for a long time, I guess, had been running in this old pipe here that was buried, and it was plugged up and full of stuff. So the water was just running over and had actually made a void underneath this concrete slab. You can see they had caulked it, but I noticed some water in the crawl space, so I thought I better do something about it before we got any more rain. So I got my little excavator and was able to actually move this slab out of the way and backfill. Just stuck a pipe on top of the ground to keep the water away from the house for now. But while I was doing that, I had an issue with my little toy. I knew these tracks wasn't in the best of the shape, but actually these steel lugs in here, when they start getting, you know, real deteriorated, they start coming out. So I had a lug come out, and it actually derailed here. The piece of the lug was still in there, and so it came off of the front idler. I don't know if you can see, but the idler is supposed to be in between those lugs sticking down. So I'm gonna have to do something about this. Ordered these guys Wednesday afternoon online. I just looked for the best price I could get, since I don't use this to make money. I just needed a pair of tracks for it. So I ordered them on Wednesday afternoon about 2:30, and they came Thursday morning about 11 a.m. Motor freight from Georgia. So they sure are on the ball. And those straps are just for show. These things couldn't come off the trailer if it turned over, probably. They're so heavy. We got it out of the mud and over here in the grass where we can work without getting too nasty. I don't know which cover. I'd say it's this one, just because of the distance. But there's a relief in here to take the grease out of the cylinder that holds the tension on this idler pulley. So we need to get to it. And I don't want to break any bolts off, but sometimes you just can't help it. That made it. See if this one will loosen up a little bit. You can't get no juice around it. Yeah, this was the right one. So we can tighten this one back up. I didn't get it moving much. I was afraid it was really going to break up. So might loosen this up some more if it'll do it. Get it out of the way. Oh yeah. Okay, we're in there now. See these grease fittings inside of here? One of them is to put grease into to expand this out, and the other one is to let the grease out so that you can relieve the tension. So I think it's the big one to let the tension off. I'm going to loosen it up and see what happens. Let's see if we're on the right one here. We'll loosen it up and see if anything starts to happen. No grease yet. Don't stand right in front of it in case it's plugged up. I'll come out below the fit now. Let's try again. It says gonna go a turn and a half. We might have to get a piece of wire. There's 1/2, 1, 1.5. We got nothing coming out. See. There's a lot of crud in it, I don't guess. Oh, okay, I'm on the wrong one. This one is the one that don't have the check ball in it. So I just assumed it was the big one, and that's what you get when you assume. So I can tighten this one back up and switch and take off the smaller fitting when I loosen it up. It's got a pretty good size hole to let the grease squirt on out. Ah, come on, fire. See this one here, it don't have anything inside of it except dirt. So the grease will squeeze right out of that. Let me get me a 7/16. Let's see what we got. I don't have the right size socket on the truck, so I'm going to put a metric on here and see if it'll do anything. There she comes. Try to catch some of the goo if it comes out of there. But what should be happening, this idler right back here, this idler right here, see how it's got room to come forward? It's supposed to let the pressure off of it so it can slide forward. Of course, there's dirt and rust and everything in here. So sometimes you can take a fat boy like me and stand on it and move it. Your other option is stick a piece of wood in here, start the machine and roll it around the sprocket, and that'll pull it in. So since the grease has quit moving and we're not in far enough yet, I'm probably going to try that.
Oh, some happened.
That's just where it fell off the backside there. We got to get it back over it. So let me grab a block of wood and see what we can do.
More grease is coming out a lot.
Oh yeah. Get your fill up right quick. Hello. So it looks like it pulled in most of the way here. Of course, the track's hanging way down and a lot more grease comes shooting out. So I'm going to assume we're pretty close, but of course, these tracks ain't light fellers. That's 300 pounds. So what I'm going to do is ease the machine down to try to get the track a little closer to the ground, which may give me a little bit of slack on this end to try to get it around this idler. Like I say, it's bad because it's off on the back side. If it was off on the front side, we'd almost be home. Off of that one pad there, I'm gonna have to raise her back up. But we're off the idler now. It's hard to believe how heavy these things can be. Hang on a bolt back here now. Now we can roll it.
You're smart.
And we can use the machine to load them back up on the trailer to haul them off. Okay, I'm gonna clean up some grease and get some of this dirt off and check everything out good. The rollers all feel really good, nice and tight, no grinding or nothing when you turn them. I'm not sure what these pads are supposed to look like, but they don't look bad to me, so I think they're okay. I'm going to scrape all this dirt that's laying on top off. Water department's over here working on the water line. If we had water, we'd go ahead and pressure wash it. You know, give it a Craigslist overhaul with a little bit of spray paint. But I guess we'll just knock the dirt off and put the new track on. Okay, we're going to see if we can get these things off of here. Alright, get them unwrapped here. Get me something to cut the cord. Yum.
Yum. Raspberry.
Let's see, the front of the machine is here. I'll have to get it turned around a little bit. All right. Well, we just gotta hope they fit.
Want me to help you?
It's a working out as planned. There's another wire tie. We're getting close to being on the sprocket here, so I'm gonna try to get this back end worked around a little bit. Let's grab a bar. This was my daddy's and his daddy before him. I reckon it used to be an axle and a piece of coal mining equipment. And they made him a digging bar basically out of it.
There it goes.
Or maybe it was made for a track putter on there. So it looks like everything's on where it needs to be. The next step is tighten up that grease fitting that let the grease out. Then pump about 100 squirts of grease in there. I borrowed an hour grease gun. I got to run in and get my compressor and plug it up out here. So I'll do that and I'll be right back with you. Okay, the grease gun I borrowed may have an issue. It looks like the diaphragm might be leaking a little bit, but we'll see. I picked it up here so we could see it go up if it was going up. It's blowing it all over my hand. Yep, I think we got an issue, fellas. Huh. Did I get you? All right, we're going to look into this thing, see if it's something we can fix or if we have to go get us one. So what have we learned today? We learned that the grease fittings are on the cover that's farthest from the front of the machine. We learned that you have to take out this fitting to release the grease, and this fitting's where you put it back in. And we learned not to borrow your brother-in-law's grease gun unless he's used it recently. So, I saved $300 on them tracks. So I spent it on a grease gun. Okay, this thing comes with a little grease in the machine, I guess just to keep it from rusting, I don't know. But you still have to put a new cartridge in. Some kind of white looking stuff's in it. So I would say that's looking more like the kind of grease I got. So let's see if this will work. Oh. All right, here goes nothing. Okay, I'm gonna stop as I get close here and actually start it and run them forward and backward a little bit just to kind of get everything worked in where it's supposed to be, and then we can set our actual tension. They say to check the actual tension down here at the bottom by using a 1/2 inch bolt between the lug and the bottom of the roller there, but I think we're real close, so we're going to have to tension them again after we use it for a couple hours, because these treads will probably stretch out a little bit or something. So we're going to put our cover back on this side and pick up the other side. It should go a lot more smoothly. Well, they work good. That's the only thing I was really worried about on this thing when I bought it, was the treads were so dry rotted, but that wasn't too big of a job. Here's the current service. You can see they got it anchored. They got a big 5/8 bolt that goes all the way through into the attic, so it must be 2 foot long that holds that angle there, and they've got the wire tied to it, swung over to the pole. And then I've just, of course, got a meter base here, and then comes out the bottom of the meter base, goes up and goes into the back of my panel on the other side. What I thought about doing was going ahead and putting it underground. I've dug up the ground rod here to see where it was, but I could do that, and I could actually just set a meter right here and go underground out to the pole. But I got to thinking, if I'm going to all that trouble, I may want to put me another garage on the end of this place one day, so that would be in the way. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting that new meter base on the front corner of the house here. And because I'll be so far from my panel, and I really don't want to run it down on the outside, I'll need to put a meter base that has a disconnect built into it, so you can turn it off right here. Like this meter base. The meter sits right here at the top, and just below the meter you have a 200 amp breaker, and then there's a four spaces. I guess you could have 8 circuits there if you used the little mini breakers, but the main thing is you got these big lugs that feed through this breaker, and then you can take the 200 amp power and go to your existing panel. This is called SER cable. It's a service entrance cable with a reinforced tape, I guess. That's maybe what the R is, I don't know. But at any rate, it's got 4 conductors. You got your two hots, your neutral, and your ground. And you can use this, I think you can use it outside, but basically what it's really good for is going up through your framing members where it would be hard to do conduit. This, I'm lucky here, I happen to have 2x8 walls on this garage. At least this outside wall. I think they didn't want the little ledge you'll have a lot of times down here when you have an 8-inch block coming up above the floor. So my block comes up to the top of this expansion joint material. So they just built a 2x8 wall there so they wouldn't have that little ledge, but that's going to help me out here. So over here's my current panel, and these 3 wires here are the ones coming in from outside where we saw that plastic sweep and that LB coming up the wall. So what I've done is I had to move some wires around. That's why I wrote on them to mark what they was. But I brought that SER cable up into the attic and then straight back down through here. I had to move a couple of wires and drill the hole bigger. But I've got it basically coming down into the top of this panel so that once I get everything ready and the electric company comes out and disconnects me, I can pull these wires out here and get it back on real quick. And that's going to be the beauty of moving the meter base, is that I can get all of this ready, dig my trench underground over to the pole, get the wire ran, have the inside ready except for that final connection. And then when the power company comes out and cuts me loose, they could probably even start right back. They run the actual conduit. You have to provide the conduit and wire, but they actually put it up the pole and make the connections up there. So they could actually get started back on that the same morning if they wanted to. So I've done some measuring. I think I want my 2-inch, or that hole going into the house from the back of my meter base, to be right here. So I'm going to take my hammer drill and drill me a hole through this grout and through the sheeting on the other side and just make sure everything is copacetic before I make a bigger hole. So I've got a hole outside, and here's where it landed inside. So I think that'll be a pretty good spot. Of course, I'm in the right bay here. So probably what I'll do is I may go ahead and take a hole saw and cut out this sheeting board since it's so thick, and then go on the outside and take a core drill and come through the brick. Okay, so we're through our sheeting and we're up against the tar paper, which I assume is right behind the brick after a little air gap there. So now we'll go to the other side and do a core drill on that side. That old core drill really does a good job. I think it's Bosch brand, the actual bit and holder. I bought that years ago and I've drilled a bunch of holes. A lot of time it's just through cinder block. But I've drilled through several brick walls with it and it's still cutting today. Okay, you can see it's a little over 5.5 inches through there to the back side of the sheeting. I think I've got some little dimples on the back of that thing. If I had some 6-inch lag bolts, it would probably lag all the way through this wood. A little bit longer would be even better. But I think it only has what's got one at the top and 2 at the bottom that you can use to mount it unless you make some more. And it's better to use those because they've already got the dimples. So I may check and see if I can find some 1/4 inch by 6 lag bolts somewhere. Made me a little 3-inch PVC sleeve there to go through the brick. A lot of places you can put SE cable directly straight through the masonry walls and grout around it or whatever you want to. Tennessee has some kind of amendment that if you have masonry or steel siding, anything other than wood, you have to protect the stuff from touching it. So what I'm trying to do here is make this sleeve to where it, the cable, this clamp will hold the cable right in the center there, so there's no way it can ever get over to the side. But without going to a really huge hole, I'm going to have to notch the sleeve on both sides to accept that clamp. So I think that'll probably do me because that panel's going to be out just a little bit. Now, of course, this is not a wet. This may be used in dry locations only. However, they really don't make a wet connector for SER cable yet. They make it for SE cable that only has the 2 wires in the ground. It's more like an oval shape. And they make a gland nut that actually tightens down and seals it up pretty much watertight. They're going to have to come up with something. The new electrical code, when everybody adopts it, is going to require a disconnect on the outside of your house. So you're probably going to see more and more of this cable being used as localities, adopt that new code. I put some silicone around that sleeve and stuck it in the brick there before I went to the hardware store, hoping it would kind of start setting up. You know how that silicone is, it'll hold anything, but I found these great big beautiful things, and they had them in the 8-inch. So that'll give me the ability to put a 2x block on the inside of that sheeting and give us even more support. So I'm going to see how these look in the panel. I think they'll work great though. They had them with the small head too, but I figured this big head would keep them from ever pulling through, and you wouldn't have to use a washer. Oh yeah, them will work just fine. I like the way that looks. Got me a little stick to help me out since I'm working solo today, but I've got the first screw started here. So I'll take you around on the other side and show you what I think we need to do. There's the screw started through. Of course, it's going to come on in here about another almost 2 inches. So I think I'm going to cut me a piece of 2x4 and put it in here edgewise like a stud. We'll still have plenty of cover, plenty of room to have this cable in the wall since we have this big thick wall. And I can even do it down here too, because you got to keep a pretty good bending radius on this stuff. These 2 screws should be right in this general area. Once I get this one secure, I'm going to mark these 2 and then take the whole meter base down and drill them. Okay, so we marked the 2 bottom holes and drilled them through the brick. There's the top hole. So since it's time to put it up permanently, I'm going to put us a bunch of silicone around here so when I tighten this lock nut up, no water will be able to get back in there in the future. Well, that's about a half a tube, and I went ahead and put some back in the holes and around them too, so it'll kind of help seal the screws up. Although we're pretty close to the overhang, but you could get some wind-driven rain over the years. I'm glad I went ahead and got the longer screws, because one screw was fine up here, but when you put 2 big screws side by side in that old 30-year-old dried out pine, it tended to split it. So when I put this 2x4 across here, it'll actually be holding it instead of the sheeting that's got the crack in it. Okay, we got the lock nut tightened up, and as you can see, this connector holds this cable in the center. So really it could never really rub around here, but these bushings cost about $1. And I have heard tell of people getting turned down because they didn't have one on it, but I doubt it happens much anymore. It sure does make it look nicer, so it's probably worth the $1. Okay, so she's on the wall. I didn't terminate anything because I'm going to have to run the primer, or the the line coming in from the pole, and they'll have to be landed up on top there, so might as well do them all at once. That way I can borrow my brother-in-law's ratcheting cutters and wire benders and stuff like that. I don't have any of that kind of stuff, so all of this will go away when that happens. I'm probably never going to use a telephone line, which is the bottom one, but I definitely use the cable. That's my internet, so I'll probably pick up some underground coax and put it in the top of the ditch after I cover the electric conduit up. I'm also going to probably run a maybe like a 3/4 or 1-inch PEX. 100 foot would reach from this corner out to the pole, just to have a future conduit. Regular conduit's just too darn expensive to buy for something like that now. But the county or the actual state requires 2 grounding rods now, or a foundation ground, which is like a piece of rebar at least 20 foot long inside your footing and the wire attached to it. Of course, this is an old existing house, so I can't do that, but it just has this 1 ground rod now. They want you to have the 2 ground rods at least 6 feet apart. So I can come over here about 7 feet and drive me another ground rod in here and then run up into the panel and use that existing ground rod. That'll give me 2 ground rods. But the other reason I kind of like that idea, as I was telling you, the reason to move this meter was maybe I might add on a garage on this end of the house. And if I do that, it would start back here 6 feet away from the front edge is where the footer would be for it. So I could at that time do one of the UFERs, or whatever they call the rebar embedded in concrete ground. And my wire would be right there. I could tie right into it. So my next step, I'm gonna do the 811 or Miss Utility or whatever they call it here in Tennessee, so they can mark out there. I know there's a fiber optic There's a fiber optic cable out there underground. There's a water line. I think that's all that's actually out there, and I believe it's all between the highway and the power pole, so I think I'll be good. But I'm gonna go ahead and call and let them mark it again. It was marked when I first bought the house because they were doing something across the street with a cable line. But I'm pretty sure it was all on the highway side of that power pole. So that'll be the next step. As soon as we get that marked up, we'll grab the little excavator and start digging. Well, we had a lot of rain this morning. I'm waiting on 811 to come and mark. The water company came and told me I was good. They wasn't gonna actually spray nothing. But there's been an update. The electric system came back out and looked at it one more time and decided we should put a new pole here before they go putting all that conduit up the side of it, because that one's so crooked where it's been over the years. So I located the property line for them here. There's the survey peg. So we're going to move it over actually on the property line. And so they've also put in a request to have it marked. So we'll have to wait just a little longer before, I ain't gonna dig a ditch out here until they get that pole in the ground, because it's liable to move a little bit before they get it a hole that deep, this rock. The 811 people just left. They marked the this big wide spread here, about 4 feet wide, is the fiber optic. He said it was 48 strands. So it's a pretty good sized cable in there. But I think I'm gonna miss it everywhere. The only place I'm getting close is down here at my water meter, where I'm gonna replace the water line. I'll walk down there to it. As you can tell, they say my water meter's right on top of it. So it must be pretty deep. I dug this out by hand yesterday. That's a 1/2 inch galvanized line with a whole lot of barnacles on the outside of it. So, and it's deep. Doesn't need to be that deep around here. We don't have that kind of freeze. I think over the years, they've actually raised the meter up once, you can tell, with that little ring it's breaking off the top. So I'm probably gonna go ahead and replace that meter box. The water company said if I'd holler at them when I get this opened up, they would come out and do 2 things. One, they'd bring me a plastic box for this thing, and 2, they'd put their meter on a little riser to get it up closer to the lid so they'll have an easier job reading it. These aren't electronic meters. They don't have them yet here, so they have to come out and read them every month. So what I'll do is connect my new PEX down there and then try to get up probably about 8 to 10 inches and head to the house over that way. Got a pretty afternoon. I've got all my AC caught up, so I thought I'd come out here and start digging this water line. I was going to try to dig and stay beside the line, and I thought it was deeper than what it was and leave it hooked up, but it's not going to work. I'm all over top of it, and I'm afraid I'm going to jerk it out of the meter, so I've cut it off. I'm going to take my sawzall and chop off the line right here. That way, if I do happen to hook it, I won't tear the meter up. I hope that shutoff holds. I'd like to never got it to turn. It hadn't probably been turned off maybe ever, but in years anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it loose down here and see how much water we get. Looks like all the water's coming from the house side. So I think we'll be good to go. Now I can dig and not have to worry about you know, jerking it loose out of the meter anyway. I might have to be a little careful when I get close to the house, just to keep from, it goes through really deep. I'm not going to go through that deep, so I'm thinking I'm going to lose it here somewhere and not have it anymore. So I think we'll be okay now. I'm not a very fast digger, but that thing does a good job. I put the little 12-inch bucket that came with it on it, and it's going to be perfect for stuff like water lines. Well, I snagged it right down here close to the meter right away after I got brave, after I cut it. So then I tried to take it easy and just keep watching it and see what happened to it. And I lost track of it until I got up here at this little maple tree. And I snagged it again just then on the edge. It's got up pretty shallow now. So I'm going to go ahead and saw it off again right here and just jerk that piece out of there. And keep an eye on this piece then. Okay, I started putting my dirt way over because I realized I was going to have to turn around somewhere and dig from the house back. So down there at the tree where we saw it a little while ago is the last time I've seen the water line. I think it's on this side of me now. I would have came over here quicker, but I wanted to miss that little maple because I want the water to come in further toward the center of the house anyway. So what I'm going to do right now is turn this thing around and get lined up on this ditch. Come back here and start digging to the house. Well, I'm straddling the ditch here now. I came out from the house and then we can see where I stopped digging before. So I'm gonna swing around here and connect those two ditches together. And then I guess I'll have to go get the core drill and try to get me a hole through that brick and block. Oh, I guess these fellers had more brick than they had cinder block, because they laid brick all the way down to the footing, all the way around the house. Remember this bit I was bragging on the other day? I got it out to drill this hole and it kept stopping. And I got to looking and the arbor's all chewed up. Can you see that? Will it focus? Come on now. There you go. So I was afraid maybe the drill was hurt and was what was causing this, but after I finished this hole off, I actually chucked this bad arbor up in my DeWalt battery-powered hammer drill to finish the hole back to the cinder block. And then I stuck a long bit in the Milwaukee, and she did just fine, so I don't think there's anything wrong with the chuck. I think this metal on this arbor just finally gave up after many rounds of beating. So I'll need to get at least a new arbor for these bits. But what I've done, I've drilled this hole through on into the inside, and I've measured from that hose bib over 38 inches and down 56 inches, just in case this happened to be down near the dirt, that I'll be able to find it. And I'm gonna go inside and take this bit in my DeWalt drill, and hopefully I'll be in the center of a core instead of right into a web. We'll find out. Typically I'm in a web. Unless that's well, I mean, the web would typically be right here, so I might skirt past it. I'll put it in here and try it. There's the old line. They either come in right on top of the footer or went under it. I hadn't dug down to see. Of course, that ground goes all the way back to my panel in the garage on the other end of the house, and that can go away. I need to pull that wire out of there. That's probably worth $7,000 in today's market. Well, I'd rather be good than lucky, but I'll take luck. There's no way in the world I knew where that was. I just picked a spot and drilled a hole. So we did good. It's about the first thing that's gone right for me in weeks. Okay, it's 12 inches through the brick and the block, so I just marked that pipe at 14 inches so it would stick through a little bit in there, and stuck it through the hole. I'm using this 2-inch PVC for my sleeve. Last house I used the black roll pipe, the polypropylene pipe, but it was so darn expensive. This is the not for pressure 2-inch PVC. It's a cellular core It's made for drains and furnace vents. So it's I think it was like $7 for 10 foot, so 100 foot of it was $70. The cheapest the black stuff was about $100 for an inch and a quarter, and this will give me more room to stick that through as well. I think what I'm going to do is put all this together down to the meter, lay that 100-foot row of 1-inch PEX out in the sun here for a little while and let it get a little soft, and just take it inside and push it through. I've got her stuck in a stake pocket on my dump trailer, and then I unrolled it as I came out through the yard and hooked it around the mailbox post. The sun is almost behind the cloud, but it's coming out, so this stuff doesn't like UV light for long term, but for short term it'll sure help help me push it through that sleeve later. Okay, I got 3 joints or 30 foot put together in there. You can see it's still on my mark down there. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the excavator forward so I don't have to get under it, and go ahead and put some dirt on it just to hold it, so when we're shoving and pushing on it, it won't move. Well, I was going to just put a little dirt over it, but I wound up putting a lot of dirt over it. The bank collapsed and my track went down in there, so looks like good dirt around everything though, so it'll be all right. Got the old water line out of the meter piece there, and she's a little gnarly inside. Okay, the sleeve is in just short of the meter there. I've got this pipe hooked under my arm. I'm going to drag it around back and drag it in through the crawl space and start trying to shove it through. It's a lot straighter than it was, but it's still got a lot of memory in it. I had to stop and try to video this. That's how much is left, and it's still sliding through just like butter. Hope I didn't just jinx myself. I got 95 feet of a sleeve in the ground, so this is 100 foot. It actually looks like they may have given me about 3 foot more based on the markings on the pipe, so I'll probably need to stop either when I get close to about 6 or 7 foot, or if I feel it hit the meter out there. I'm going to have to unravel it from behind my footer there. It's getting tied up here, but that was really amazing to me how easy it slid through that pipe, because even the other end still had a little memory on it. I figured it would get caught at every joint. See if we can get this twisted about. Okay, so we're still about, I'd say 16 or so feet having it crammed in there. That's just really got a lot of memory in this end. So I'm gonna turn the camera off where I can use both hands to keep it from slapping me upside the head, and push it on out through there. Okay, I hit what felt like something solid right there. So we'll go outside and look and see what we got. Dang, fellers, if I'd already had my fitting screwed in there, she might have just went on. So that's pretty much what it's gonna be. I'm gonna go in there, it's a 3/4 thread. They had a 3/4 by half bushing, and then that 1/2 inch galvanized going in. So I think I have a 1-inch PEX insert by 3/4 thread fitting. So I'll just screw it in and crimp it on. Well, I found my fitting for the meter, but I thought before I go out there and put it in, I'll go ahead and crimp a valve on the end of this line under the house here, so that when I do put that on out at the meter, I can turn it on and make sure it doesn't leak. Because I'll be honest with you, fellas, I tried to get that union loose on that meter, thinking it'd be a lot easier to, you know, put the stuff on the PEX and then stick it down there and tighten up the union, but I couldn't get it to budge. So chances are I've screwed it up or messed with it enough to make it leak. So we'll see, but I'm gonna put this valve on. I brought 2 crimp rings down. I'm gonna cut a little of this pipe off and put on the other side of the valve, because I don't have any more 1-inch PEX right now, and everybody's out around here. So I'll need to have a little bit of PEX on the other side of that valve so I can adapt to something else, so I can have temporary water. So I'll cut off about 1 foot off of this. Crimp it on that valve and then crimp the valve on this pipe, and then we can turn it off and go outside and hook to the meter. Okay, so our valve is crimped on and turned off, so we should be able to go out to the meter, put it together there, and see if we got any leaks. Okay, I've already got the blue monster tape wrapped on it. I have cracked open the meter and flushed it out in case any dirt got in it. So I'm going to screw this in and then we'll get to crimping. Okay, I got that guy as tight as I want to put it, I think. I cut off the electrician's tape I had on the end of it. So now I need to get it slipped up on there and crimp that ring. And this is why I wanted to take that union loose. I can't get my crimpers open enough to get them up over the ring. I got them turned edgewise and got them down on the pipe, but there's just not enough room to get up over the ring, so I'm gonna have to dig out a little dirt on each side, or one side or something. I wound up taking out a little on both sides, buried my feet, but I think we've got her crimped. I wanna dig my feet out and we'll crack open the valve on the other side of that meter and see if it leaks. Wish me luck. So far my feet aren't getting wet. I took a picture of that meter earlier and it was on 9, and now it's on just over 1.5, so that would be a little over 2.5 gallons of water. I think 100 feet of 1-inch PEX would normally hold about 3 gallons, so there's probably about a half a gallon of air up against that valve. We can go under there and check and see. Of course, I said the air was probably up against the valve. More than likely, it's up against the top of the pipe all the way out through there, because usually when you turn your water on, you get several spurts of air after it runs water. So let's just see what we get out of it. It's dry under here. I don't think it'll hurt to get a little water. Which way does this thing turn? Come on, baby. That was a lot of air. Well, we probably went over our 3 gallons when I let that much out. But we've got water now. What I planned on doing was running the 1-inch all the way till we get to the water heater, and then go 3/4 to the cold and 3/4 to the hot. So the only fittings I've purchased was the 3/4 by, I think I bought a 1-inch by 1-inch by 1/2 inch T to do this hose bib out front. And I may have bought a couple others, but mostly what I bought was like a 1-inch to 3/4 to 3/4. So I may just stop by Lowe's in the morning and get a 1-inch to, maybe they make a 1-inch to 1/2, and I can temporary up a 1/2 inch water line over there to my other temporary 1/2 inch water lines, and have a toilet that flushes and a sink that works. So that's for tomorrow. I think what I'm going to do now is go out and make sure that meter's not started dripping any around that union, and if it hasn't, I'll probably just cover it up with a piece of plywood tonight. The water department, I went by and saw them just before they closed today and told them that I had that meter uncovered. And the guy told me they would bring out a riser and put on that meter to raise it up a little bit so that it's not down in the dirt and water so deep. And also bring me a new plastic meter box. So hopefully they'll bring that tomorrow, but I can cover everything up except, right where the meter is. So I may sit out there on the little excavator and try to learn how to do this. So we ran it around to just past 2, which if you started at 9, that would be 3 gallons. So that little bit we put out on the ground was that part gallon. So I guess 1-inch PEX does hold about 3 gallons per 100 lineal foot. And yeah, I did silicone around my wall sleeve. I just stuck it in there and pumped and pumped and pumped until I noticed a big puddle coming out the bottom. Kind of like greasing a ball joint. I'm gonna call her quits for tonight. This thing, I've never put fuel in it. It had a little over 1/2 tank when I bought it, so I'm not sure how low it'll go without running out. So I'll bring me a 5-gallon jug, otherwise known as what would that be? $100 worth with me if I come back out here tomorrow afternoon and top it off. I brought a little diesel by and put in the excavator and pushed this around some. I got some pretty big rocks there I need to pick up and get out of the yard and maybe do a little raking. Probably let Mother Nature rain on it one time. That'll help a lot. It'll expose all them little rocks that's in the dust right now. But the water company came by and put me that riser. See if we can get down there and get a look at it. You can see the meter used to be down there at that nut, and now it's up at this nut, so it's raised it up probably about 10 inches higher. It even has its own separate cutoff up here now, so it'll be a lot easier to get to. They brought me a plastic box, but they need to bring me an extension collar to get me up to ground level here. And hopefully, if I can get it up just maybe a little bit higher than the ground, maybe grade around it just a little bit, it'll keep all that water off the highway from running over here just like it's a big floor drain every time it rains. But water's hooked up under the house. We'll go inside and take a look at the you know, what we got in there now. Wow. That's nice. That old line was really restricting us, because before, if you had the water on, you didn't have near that flow. But if you flushed the toilet, it slowed down. So that's going to be a big improvement. It's supposed to get some rain today, so I'm not sure how much I'll get done, but got my new pole put in yesterday while I was in a 140-degree attic. So I think what I'm going to do this morning, I'm going to take all these trees down on the front of the house. They've just gotten way overgrown. They're actually up into the gutter and everything. And these things, when you cut them back, they kind of look like this, at least for a while. So I'm just going to get rid of them. This one needs to go because I need to dig the ditch for this conduit as straight as I can. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if this little mini will get that thing out of the ground for me and give me some experience for taking those others down. Well, that wasn't very bad at all. It didn't have a whole lot of roots to it. I'm going to put that manual thumb down and pick this thing up, and I can carry it back there and throw it over the fence, make me a place for a big bonfire one of these days. Well, I'm not real good at digging at all, and I sure can't dig a straight line, so I'm going to help myself all I can. I've pulled me a string where the edge of the conduit will be, and I'm going to go right outside of it and paint me a line that I hopefully can follow with my bucket. I'm going to paint it pretty heavy. It's getting ready to rain, so hopefully it'll still be there when I get ready to dig. So I got me a line. Missy just texted and said it was pouring the rain about 3 miles from me right now, so I'm not even going to try it today. Maybe if it rains and gets done, it'll be a good time to dig, but I think today might be an easy day. I know I'm probably going to regret it, but I went ahead and started digging on this thing. The sun popped out and gave me a false sense of security. But we'll see what happens. Worst case scenario, it'll fill up with water and we'll clean it out again when it dries up. Well, I found a surprise up here next to the pole. A piece of concrete pipe. I don't know where it goes. There is a pond back there at the edge. They might have had a overflow on that pond and brought it out here to the creek over there. But it's in there good and sturdy. Looks like the pole just missed it when they drilled it down through there. So I'm trying to go underneath it. That'll give me my more than 3 foot deep and get me up on the side of the pole there. Okay, my daylight's about gone. I've got the conduit in. I've got a underground cable line and a black polypropylene conduit ran for future something. I've covered it up with about a foot of dirt I put about a foot or so over the electrical, put the conduit and the cable in, and then I put another foot of dirt, and now I've put down my caution tape, and I'm gonna try to push this in so if somebody walks down through here tonight and falls in it, they can get out. Of course, camera really makes it look more daylight than it is. 9:03. Happy 4th of July. Of course, you probably won't see this for a couple of months, but it ain't pretty, but it's filled in. The ditch was about 4 foot deep across through here. They want 3 foot, and I'm going to do a little grading in here at some point in time to give me a little swell over here away from the house. But probably need to go down here and roll this cable line up and do something with it instead of just having it laying everywhere. The inspector, of course, doesn't work tomorrow because it's a holiday. He only does 2 days a week in this county, so if I don't do it on Monday, you have to do it on Wednesday. So I'd say it's going to end up being the next Monday. I really don't have time to get everything else ready, I don't think. Too many AC calls. But I'm going to roll this stuff up. Found a big rock and a Dr. Enough bottle. I'm going to roll this stuff up and shut up the house and get out of here. Well, it's been a few days. I meant to get out here sooner and try to get a string through this conduit before I got any water in it, but it's rained several times. I've got my vacuum cleaner on it, on the other end. So, got a little piece of a bag tied on the string. Okay, I heard the vacuum cleaner change sound. So if we got anything. Yeah, we did. And you can see there's a little bit of muddy water in there, so there was definitely some water in the conduit already, either because my bag leaked or just condensation. Oh, we stopped it before it got into the vacuum. It was actually just in the hose. And we got that much water out of the conduit on the way. So we've got the string in now. I don't have any of the stuff that you normally pull with, but I could use a rope just to have. I think the last rope I had, I actually broke and cut up in pieces. So I may just buy a 100 foot of rope. This is a little longer than 100 foot, but you could tie the rope to the line, the other end of this string, and you could push the wire through enough to get a hold of your rope on this end. So that's probably what I'll do, is just buy me a little piece of 100 foot, maybe 1/4 inch rope to pull this with. Okay, it's Saturday and it hadn't rained for about 3 hours. So I thought I'd jump over here and try to get this panel wired up and ready to go. Inspector works Monday and Wednesday. He said he would come Monday. He's going to actually come and inspect it. Usually you have to have the power cut off and then make your connections in the other panel. And then he comes and looks at it, and then they come back and hook it up. But he said he would come and inspect it, give them the go-ahead. They could come and turn it off and hook it back up immediately. And while they were doing that, I could hook up my 4 conductors in the other panel, and I wouldn't be out of power very long that way. So that's what we're going to do. And I've never messed with this SER cable. It's that new compact cable. It's kind of rectangle, if you can see a cross section on this ground here. But the thing you don't want to do, and I did it here, I didn't know, after you get this thing ready, if it's going into a lug that's only rated for 2/0, and this is a 2/0 wire, you don't want to twist it after you cut it off, or it goes all to pieces, and I like to never got it up in there. The best thing to do with this, I think, would be to figure out how long you're supposed to be. Take your lug off of the panel, slip it on there while you're, not bending it, tighten it down and then bend it, because once this stuff starts moving, these are easy because the insulation holds them together. But you can see what that thing did, and it was a bear to get up in that lug. It was all I could do. I worked on it for 15 minutes, but this one went right in. So I'm going to get these torqued down, work these other two up here. And Missy's here today. My brother-in-law was going to come tomorrow and help me, but they're calling for an 80% chance of rain. So I may go ahead and see if she and I can stick that roll of cable through out to the pole and get everything ready today in case there's so much rain tomorrow we don't have time. Also, got that ground rope driven the rest of the way down. Got the number 4 copper coming up. Got my interface here for other boxes that need to have a way to ground. Goes on up into the panel, and then what I'm gonna have to do is dig me a little ditch over to that other ground rod that's on the existing panel. I'm gonna reuse it. So I'll get me a ditch dug over through here. Ground's good and soft because of the rain we've had unstopping for a week and a half. But I'll get all that put together today. Me and Missy will stick that wire in there maybe and be ready for inspection Monday morning. Well, with me pushing and Missy pulling out there, we've got it all pulled through. I'm going to go ahead and make these last 3 connections here, and then I guess I'll dig this ditch and should be completely ready for inspection at that point. Okay, got those final connections made right there. I'm going to go ahead and button the panel up for today, and then Monday morning I'll have to open it up for the inspector anyway, and I'll go ahead and I'll loosen these up and retorque them again just to let them rest for a day or two before they get their final tightening. After I close this up, I'm gonna jump out there at the pole, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and roll that wire up and hang it up on the pole with some panduit straps, just to keep any tweakers from coming by and cutting it off and taking it to the scrapyard. Another rainy day. Feels like it's monsoon season. We passed inspection, so electric system should be out directly to get started hooking me up out there, and then while they're doing that, I'll have to go inside and hook up. I'll have to cut the 3 conductors out, pull them out of the box there, and hook my new one in. And that way, by the time they get done on the pole, I should be able to have electricity again. And they are here. Okay, I got mine torqued down. They are finishing up there. They're actually shortening up the neighbor's drop too, because it's hanging pretty close to their driveway. I think mine was pulling the pole over. So I've got to jump outside and hook up the ground rod, the old ground rod, to the new grounding system, and we'll be ready for power. Okay, got the old ground wire loose and the new ground wire on there. I'm not going to worry about the telephone. I'm actually going to take it off the house and roll it up and put it on the pole. That's what this ground is for. The cable ground, however, only went to right here. I guess they never got around to hooking it up. So it wasn't grounded before, so I'll do something about it when I move it over there. I'm going to keep cable. That's how I get my internet here. We don't have any phone service out here, cellular service. So the only way I get telephone service is through my internet. So I got to get it back on here. And then the last thing I need to do before they turn me on is get rid of this strap. Since this is not the first means of disconnect anymore, all the neutrals and grounds have been already separated. I did that ahead of time, but now I got to take this bonding strap off so that the neutral will be separate from the grounds. And we've got juice. Had this much too much, but I think they actually gave me a little too much based on the numbers on the wire when I bought it, so that's not too bad. I'll take these other 2 down by myself, tie them up over there to the pole. I'll hook my cable back up over there, and the telephone I'll just leave over there forever. So I'm gonna put the cover back on this and go inside and see if my internet works.